The moment I allowed myself to be free was when I took a look around for the first time and noticed just what I had freed myself from. About everyone around me was imprisoned like animals, but they would have it no other way. This is what they chose for their own sanity and safety. I meandered the halls of humanity until I stopped in front of a strange man who seemed to switch between a devious but subtle smile and a depressed but satisfied disposition. He looked up into my eyes and began to cackle, convinced his cold calcium cage could keep corruption and calamity from creeping covertly back into his cardiovascular core. Cracked from a few prior experiences already before he had retreated into his new chastity confinement. Sure, nothing could come out, but that also meant nothing could come in. And I assumed that was a sacrifice he found worth making. I commend you, he breathed at me through his grin, for your bravery to explore what the world has in store, but I assure you that you'll find nothing more than pain, sorrow, disappointment, and danger. See, here we merely pretend to be as open as we are, but our scars have left the doors to our hearts stitched tight, so we only stay on the epidermal to avoid drawing blood. Yes, no, never again. We've communicated through our cages for ages, having a limitation placed on our connection. But it's at a good cost, because with deep connection comes vulnerability. And when you're vulnerable, I'll make this plain and say it's simply kamikaze, because you make yourself susceptible to all kinds of attack. However, when enveloped in a cage, when you have manufactured a maze for your mind with winding walls, woods, and wiles, shifting every time an intruder, no matter how sincere, appears to be navigating properly, this guarantees protection. Sure, the world is not one dimension, but the intention is not to experience all of the rich colors of emotion, companionship, and adventure in life, but to avoid the strife that comes with it. At this moment, his demeanor became intense and serious, and his voice grew deeper and piercing as he inched nearer to the cage bars. It's not too late to return back to your cage, son. I have to admit, my feet grew cold, and I then began to question the reward of freedom, until I noticed tears welling in his dark eyes that soon trickled down his cheeks to the icy cell floor. The tears of someone who had failed to see the beauty in skinning your knees, learning from that, getting back up and trying again to feel the euphoria of success. The magic of finally finding confidants that accept you fully for who you are. The warmth of embrace after having your heart torn apart and using the pieces to create edifying and beautiful art. The exhilaration of pursuing what scares you until you have conquered it. This caged man was right about one thing. Vulnerability is dangerous. Connection is fragile and scary. But when done right, it's worth it. There's value in pain, and there's reward in risk. As I dried his tears, soaking in every word he had spoken to me, I reached for the lock on his cage, freed him, held out my hand, and we bravely walked out together into freedom. Unsure of the destination, but with the realization that safety is the true prison, and we'd rather die, having experienced all of what life has to offer, than to live a long life trapped by our own fears to engage past surface. And who knows? Perhaps we'll meet other brave souls along the way. Souls who share the same magnetic pull to the freedom that is packaged with vulnerable bleeding hearts.